Hey everybody, Marcus Crawford here with the Idaho Quadcopter channel. Hey, I've got the DJI Avata today, and I'm doing this video a little bit different than what you've seen in the past. So typically I like to live narrate my videos. In other words, as I'm flying, I narrate what I'm doing. In this case, because the Avata for me takes a little bit more workload when I'm using the motion controller too, it's just not as natural to me as using a regular controller. So I really have to focus a lot more on what I'm doing, and then trying to narrate and fly the drone at the same time can be problematic. So what I'm doing here, and you'll notice that I've got just about half a battery. I had charged these batteries a few days previous, so they weren't completely full. So in this first battery, I thought, okay, let's just get used to flying with the motion controller again. So I'm fairly low to the ground here. You can see about a meter off of the ground, or a little bit more, 1 meter to 2 meters. And I was just flying around near the schoolyard here. So this is a kind of an area where there's 3 charter schools, and it's just about half a block from my house. So it's a convenient place to fly. And this was on a Saturday, and there was nobody around, so good time to get out and fly. So I thought I would try a rotation around this tree. And it's a little bit dangerous in this case because I'm at lower altitude, and obviously when you have the goggles on, you don't necessarily see what else is around you. And in other words, you could move the drone sideways into an obstacle, as opposed to being up high above other obstacles. So that was one of the issues here. But I'm doing this with the thumb stick, or the thumb button that's on the motion controller too. I adjusted the rates on there, and so you tilt the drone to yaw the opposite direction that you're banking the drone. And you can see I'm struggling around there a little bit, but just trying to get used to the controller. And you can also notice that we got some pretty dark clouds, and it was starting to rain just right about this time. So out in the rain, and I thought, well, okay, I'll take a little break here and I'll just fly around a little bit more. It's kind of fun. One of the most fun things, I guess, at least that I have found about the Avata, is this flying close to the ground. It gives you that sense of speed, etc. In other words, with the camera drones that I'm used to flying, you're up there a little bit higher and you're looking to get that aerial perspective. Not necessarily with the Avata. The Avata is kind of like a little sports car. So anyway, I took off here and got a little altitude, and decided to head out over Pathway School. And boy, look at those clouds off in the distance there. Nice. You can see the rain coming down. And I thought, okay, let's try that rotation again. And I'm at my favorite cell phone tower. And again, this is simply using the thumbstick on top of the joystick, and then simply tilting the battery, or excuse me, I saw that battery warning there, but simply tilting the motion controller the opposite direction. So, and I see we're getting a wind velocity reading there, a high wind velocity, and then you saw a few raindrops as well. So it was starting to rain, and it went into low battery, return to home. But what I was saying earlier is you simply yaw the drone by tilting the motion controller the opposite direction of your rotation, and you bank with that thumbstick, and you can rotate around any object. Now, had I set the drone to do a level horizon, it would have been a level horizon just like a camera drone. But to me, kind of the point of the Avata is that sense of flight. So I like leaving it with the horizon, where it can be, where it tilts as you're flying it, kind of like flying an airplane. So it's coming down here, and I could hear it. I couldn't see it. But I knew it was, I could tell that it wasn't going to land on top of my head, so I was comfortable with that. So stuck in another battery here. So this is the second battery, and again, it's only about half full. I had 3 batteries this day, so yeah, again, just trying to get my sea legs with that motion controller and doing a little flying around here. And this is like this little field next to the school is kind of perfect for that. And I like the fact you got that little hump there, so you can go over the top of that, and it gives you that idea of how to negotiate these things. So, and I like that it tells you how high off the ground. In other words, it doesn't tell you just your height from your takeoff point. It also tells you on the screen how high above the ground you are. And 2 meters, that's 6 foot high, but boy, that sure looks a lot closer, doesn't it? When we get down a meter or so, that's about 3 feet high. Flying, I know BMAX contest where challenge, he wants you to be 2 feet off the ground. Yeah, right. I don't know if this boy is ready for that yet, because even being 3 and 4 feet off the ground is a challenge for me. And I kind of went across here and I saw this dead tree, and I thought, okay, here's another opportunity to do some rotation. So let's try it around this tree right here. And the good thing about this guy is I knew that there wasn't anything else around it, right? So that I was safe. I didn't have to worry about the drone banging into another tree that was next to it. So this seems like a good opportunity to try head tracking. So you're going to see me messing around here, putting the drone into head tracking. And I was a little bit unsure how to push the button on top of the Integra goggles. And you'll see that here as I mess around. On my third try, I finally got the right menu. So that's not the menu I want right there. I knew that. No, I didn't want the menu on the bottom. So finally I clicked and I got the right menu. There's head tracking right there. Click on that. All of a sudden you got head tracking. So then let's see if we can do some rotations with head tracking. And you can see right there, I was a little bit confused. As soon as I engaged it, I was looking straight down. The thing that is interesting for me is where the little 0 is in the middle of the screen. That's where the drone is going. So you can tell I was looking down here, and the drone was gaining in altitude. So you just have to get used to knowing that little dot is where the drone's going. Where you turn your head is where the drone is going to look. So I guess be careful, because it's easy to run into something. So what I wanted to do was to try a rotation here with the drone, and you're going to see me messing around here, but I kind of accomplished it. So what you do with the dot, you simply fly around the object, and you can see me just struggling here trying to figure out what I want to do, but you fly in a circle around the object. So that's what I finally did here. And then you, with your head, you look at the object that you're orbiting. So the dot is up in one corner. I am looking at the object. So you get that rotation. In other words, you get the video of a rotation, and really you're just flying the drone around the object. So a little bit confusing for an old geezer like me, but we did it, right? It worked. So as I was going down here, I think I got a little nervous. I wanted to kind of dive bomb through there, but I just am not comfortable enough with that head tracking to do that. And then the drone pretty quick here goes into return to home, I believe. So then I took it out of head tracking mode. So I guess maybe it didn't. I thought it went into return to home earlier, but I think pretty quick here as I'm flying around out here in the field. Again, just trying to get used to that head tracking. You're going to see the way you turn your head is what you're going to look at with the drone. And I can see advantages to that. Yeah, we're down to 24%, and it's telling us low battery. So I think at 22, it kicks it into auto RTH. There it is, right there, auto RTH. And the drone goes into return to home. And, I was just going to let it go into return to home. But I decided to take it out of head tracking mode first. And you can see I'm messing around with the menus again. And I finally got it. Took it out of head tracking, and then I simply fly it back and land it here. And that's kind of what I've figured out to do. I can kind of land it like an airplane. So let's flip it around here and bring it home. And there I am right there in the parking lot. So I just started descending and bringing it on in, bringing it back to where I was sitting there so I could swap in. I had another battery yet to go, so I wanted to swap that in. And watch what happens here. As I set it down, I pull down on that little thumbstick to land it. But one of the things that I noticed that it's really easy to do is you're gonna see it here in just a second. As I'm bringing it in, I'm trying to bring it in close. Then I'm gonna pull down on that thumbstick and watch what happens. Boom! I go in reverse, and that confused me for a second. But what happened was, as I was dropping that thumbstick, with my index finger, I pushed forward on the throttle, so of course that reversed it. So you just need to be conscious of that when you're using that thumbstick. So here we are in the third battery, and in this battery I decided to see if I could fly the full perimeter around the school. And I wanted to see how well what kind of signal strength we had, because you got those goggles, and typically when you're flying with a remote controller, you're always pointing the antenna on the RC towards the drone. Obviously, in this case, I'm sitting in a chair, so wherever the drone's going is where it's going, and my antenna, like in this case, are pointed almost the opposite direction. But the signal was pretty good. I mean, you can see this. I had no issues coming through here. You'll see it's a little bit in the orange down there, but I didn't really notice in an FPV. I was going to turn around here and go in between the school, and I saw that guy there. Said, "Nah, change that. I don't want to bug anybody." So we went this way. This is a medical arts school that I'm behind right here. You can tell by the ambulance. I think that medical arts is kind of cool. So kids that want to go into that medical profession, they can kind of get a head start in high school there. So then these portable classrooms, I don't think they're used anymore. I think they no longer use these portables, but they're kind of fun. They're perfect for flying around with the Avata. And we got down pretty low here. We got less than a meter high right there. I'm feeling pretty brave. I fly over here a lot, so I kind of know this territory well, and so was feeling pretty confident. And then, you got the flagpole here and a couple of trees, so it's worth flying around. Now, I know you FPV guys were looking under that walkway there, saying, okay, you need to fly under that walkway. I'm not quite that courageous, but I do head that direction, and it's tempting, right, to go fly under that aluminum walkway right there. Oh, it's so tempting, but no, not me. I went over the top. But again, I thought, the signal is pretty darn good for me really pointing the opposite direction. Out over the field here where people play disc golf, and there's my favorite cell phone tower off in the distance here. There's some weird stuff here. Look at this. What the heck is this little corral or whatever it is they built here out of plastic, whatever. I have no idea what that's for. The school uses it for something. And then they got some picnic tables. Usually those picnic tables are sitting on top of that little deck, which I kind of get it. In the wintertime, that gets them out of the mud, etc. But this is behind Pathways School. And I think Pathways is a chartered school. I don't know if it's exactly troubled kids. I'm not sure. I know it's kids that need a little extra help that go to that Pathway School. I believe. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what it is. Now here I did get the courage to fly under this gate. I was pretty proud of that. And then went straight up and back around here. And there, yeah, you can see me down there. And time to zigzag through a few trees. That's, again, I just think that's a good way to get practice with the motion controller, how to move in and out. For you guys that are real FPV flyers, I'm sure this probably makes you laugh. But for me, it felt a little bit like an accomplishment, flying in and out of this stuff. Yeah, this is kind of the perfect spot to do it because you got these rows of trees here. And, those parking spaces, the schools allow the kids to paint the seniors, I should say, to paint their parking spots. That little piece of machinery right there that we're looking at, that is actually a sprinkler control. It's got a little antenna out of it, and I think they can control the sprinklers remotely. But again, moving in and out of the trees here. God, they got a lot of clover in the grass, don't they? Good for the bees. That's not a bad thing. The bees need clover, so that's a good thing. But yeah, so this was just kind of fun for me practicing. And again, I'm a little bit, I'm under 1 meter, so I'm at that couple 2 feet high that Brian likes in his challenge. And then this is kind of an interesting little spot here. This is kind of a typically there's water in there, and I've seen big old bullfrogs in that spot. It's dry right now, but underneath that willow tree there, that often is, I don't know if it's a little drain or what it is, but I've seen some big old bullfrogs in there before. So again, we kick it into return. It went into return to home here, and you saw me cancel it because I was right by that tree, and I was afraid that the drone would rise up and rise right into the tree. So remember where that cancel button is. That's that orange button. Boom, just hit that, and then the drone is just going to hover. And so then I thought, okay, I'll fly it around here a little bit and bring it in for a manual landing. But the Avata, I'm having more fun with it all the time. I'm getting more comfortable with the motion controller. Head tracking, I am not so sure, but that's something that I'll have to continue to work on. So this is Marcus Crawford with the Idaho Quadcopter channel out. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Most of all, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video.